Today we're diving into a really dark, cautionary tale. It's all about the true, terrifying price of revenge. This is a story about a bargain that was sealed in blood. And believe me, it leads to a punishment that is so much worse than death. Let's get into it.
So, let me start by asking you a question. How far would you actually go for revenge? I mean, what would you be willing to sacrifice to get even with someone who completely shattered your heart? Just hold that thought, because we're about to meet a man who answers that question in the most horrifying way you can imagine.
Our story kicks off, like a lot of these chilling stories do, in a place you should probably just stay away from. This rundown, abandoned house that just stinks of decay. But inside, there's this unnatural cold. You know, the kind of cold that tells you something not from this world is waiting. And a man named Akshay, he's come here looking for it.
Which brings us to part one, a deal. This is where it all begins.
So Akshay starts this really specific, creepy ritual. He lays out a red cloth, he puts out these offerings, perfume, sweets, and then, for the grand finale, he completes the summoning with a blood sacrifice. A black rooster, its life just offered up to call something out of the shadows.
And you know what? It works. A tall, dark figure just appears out of nowhere. It's a jinn, a seriously powerful entity from folklore. And its first words aren't exactly friendly. It doesn't see Akshay as a master, it sees him as a meal.
But Akshay, he came prepared. He offers the jinn something way more tempting than his own life. He promises continued offerings, a steady supply in exchange for one little favor. The jinn kind of scoffs at him at first, but then Akshay offers it the one thing he really wants: wealth, power, fame. And just like that, a deal is struck. And it's not sealed with a handshake, no, it's sealed with a drop of Akshay's own blood.
Okay, on to part two, the trap of riches. Akshay is about to get everything he ever wanted, but this kind of power, it always has a catch.
And I mean, it happens almost overnight. Akshay's life completely transforms. With this jinn as a silent partner, every single business deal, every gamble, it pays off, big time. He goes from being a total nobody to this incredibly wealthy man. Everything he touches just turns to gold. So what's the first thing he does with all this newfound power? He goes after the one thing he couldn't have before, his ex-girlfriend, Akriti. She's the woman whose rejection is the entire reason he started this dark journey. He just dazzles her with his money and makes her an offer she literally can't refuse, a life with him, just the two of them on their own private island.
And this leads us right into part three, Nights of Revenge. The dream vacation is about to become a living nightmare.
On their very first night on the island, the horror begins, but it's subtle at first. Akriti's sitting at her vanity and she feels it, this ghostly touch, like an unseen hand is just stroking her hair. She tries to shake it off, thinks it's just her imagination. But oh, it is only the beginning.
From there, the terror just escalates. This isn't just one random thing. It feels like a planned campaign to drive her insane. She feels things crawling on her skin at night. She catches glimpses of a black shadow darting behind the curtains. And then there's physical proof. She starts waking up with these deep, dark bruises all over her body. Even the house itself seems to be turning on her.
She's terrified, obviously, so she runs to Akshay. He's the only other person there. But the man who promised her a paradise, he offers zero comfort. Instead, he just looks at her with this cold, undisguised hatred. There's no love in his eyes at all. There's just the grim satisfaction of a plan that's working perfectly.
And that's when Akshay finally reveals why he's doing this. He confronts her with her own words she said a long time ago when she thought he couldn't hear. When someone had asked about their relationship, she had just brushed him off, called him a poor lowlife she was only using. And those words, they didn't just hurt him, they broke him. And they planted the seed for this entire terrible revenge.
So that brings us to part four, the invisible husband. And this is where the absolute horrifying truth of the situation is finally revealed.
Akriti is completely broken at this point, pleading with him, reminding him over and over, "I'm your wife." And that's when Akshay, with ice in his veins, delivers this chilling line. He sits her down in front of the TV and tells her he has proof they were never married at all. He's about to play their wedding video.
On the screen, Akriti watches herself at the altar, going through all the wedding rites. But she's alone. And as the video keeps playing, this horrifying, flickering shape starts to appear next to her. She didn't marry Akshay.
She was standing at the altar with a terrifying dark shadow. She married the Jinn.
And suddenly, it all makes sense. The thing that's been tormenting her, the presence she feels in the dark, the thing leaving bruises on her skin, it's not a ghost haunting the house. It's the entity she is now supernaturally bound to. It is her husband.
The second this horrifying realization hits her, the black shadow itself materializes in the room. It flows toward her like smoke and just pours into her body. She screams as her limbs contort at these impossible angles, her body twisting like some kind of rubber doll. She's not in control anymore. The Jinn has just claimed its bride, completely.
Okay, so that leads us to the aftermath. Part 5, a question.
So while Akriti's body is being twisted in agony, her screams echoing through this huge empty mansion, Akshay, he just calmly puts on his sunglasses, walks away from the house, leaves the island, and gets on a flight to start a new life. For him, the work is done. Revenge complete.
And this leaves us with two really big, lingering questions. Yeah, what Akriti said was cruel, for sure. But was this level of vengeance justified? Maybe even more chilling. Can Akriti ever escape the invisible husband she's now tied to for the rest of eternity?
Because the final takeaway here is just brutal. Akshay didn't kill Akriti. He did something so much worse. He condemned her to a fate of non-stop torture, a literal living hell, where honestly, death would be a sweet release. And it's just a terrifying reminder of what can happen when that thirst for revenge is all that's left inside a person's soul.